Well, hello there, boys and girls. In a little bit of an attempt to save my voice for tomorrow, I'm going to go through the lecture notes today. So now you have two of me, you have one up here, and you have one probably over there. Get crazy. So here's the deal, guys. I'm going to go kind of fast through this, but luckily I'm right over there to pause the video for pacing, so make sure that you're following both of us. It's multitasking. So over time, the blank blanks in a blank tend to change. Those words would be gene frequencies in a population tend to change. A large contributor to this change is blank blank. That's right, boys and girls, we're talking about sexual reproduction. It's based on the whole idea of blank, which is how adapted you are to being in an environment. Fitness is the word. It's based on the idea of fitness. Those organisms that best blank the blank will most likely blank and blank. So those organisms that best fit the environment, those organisms that best fit the environment will be most likely to blank and blank. Yes, they will survive, and then they will reproduce, because that's what you get to do if you survive long enough. So those are the next two blanks. Those organisms that reproduce successfully will pass down blanks to the next blank. Those organisms that reproduce successfully will pass down their traits to the next generation. Very good. Again, those most blank of that generation will be the most likely to blank. Those most fit, very good, that's the whole idea here, fitness. Those that most fit of the generation are the most likely to reproduce. That is correct. If a blank does not blank, it cannot pass down its blanks. Now this one's kind of common sense. If you can say organism, individual, whichever one you did, does not blank, just make more of itself, reproduce, it cannot pass down its traits. Duh. Because how could you possibly pass down your traits if you don't survive? That's weird. Blank's theory of blank blank uses these ideas from above. That would be my favorite of biologist, Mr. Charles Darwin. Darwin's theory of blank blank. Yep, natural selection, that's his theory. Darwin's theory of natural selection uses these ideas from above, as well as those from a scientist, Thomas Malthus, which is what your homework yesterday was about. Blank thought that blanks have the potential to produce many blanks. Now, who are we talking about, this paragraph? Oh, you thought it's Darwin, but it's Malthus. Malthus thought that, he thought that individuals, he thought that people had the potential to produce many blanks. What could we make a lot of? Well, babies. Yeah, we can make many offspring. That's a scientific word. However, due to blank, that's too many offspring being born. So due to, we call it overproduction. So due to overproduction, not all of them will blank. That's right, not all of them will survive. Blank noticed, now this is the other guy, my favorite, yes, Darwin noticed that those who were more likely to survive were those with the most blanks. Adaptations is correct. And a blank is a blank that gives an individual and a blank over others. Whew, that's a lot of blanks. Alright, so the first one is an adaptation again. An adaptation is just a blank. It's just a trait, that's right. An adaptation is just a trait that gives an individual and a blank over others. That's right, an adaptation is a trait that gives an individual an advantage over others. We call it an adaptation because it's that whole idea that this trait has been adapted to best suit that environment. So it's an adaptation, a trait that gives you an advantage in that particular environment. Now, due to genetic variation, oh, I gave you that one. Hopefully I paused it down there. Did you pause it down there? I don't think you did. So due to genetic variation in a blank, this would be a group of all the same organism, all, able to interbreed and whatnot. Yes, and genetic variation in a species or in a population, you're talking about the group. Due to genetic variation in a species, some individuals will always have more blanks than others. These are those traits that give you an advantage again. Adaptation is good. So due to genetic variations in a species, some individuals will always have more adaptations than others. Those with the most blanks are more likely to blank and blank. Yep, those with the most adaptations are most likely to survive and reproduce. Yes, because if you survive, you can reproduce, and if you have the most adaptations, you're more likely to survive and therefore more likely to reproduce. Over blank amounts of time. That's right, long, large, massive amounts of time. It's likely that this thing called speciation will occur. In blank, yeah, that's speciation again, that's good. In speciation, a new blank is formed when the advantageous blanks have become very blank from the original blank. So, speciation, I wonder why it's called speciation. So, in speciation, a new species is formed when the advantageous blanks, yes, those advantageous traits, good, we could say adaptation there too. So a new species is formed when the advantageous traits have become very blank from the original blank. They become very, so remember, it's not the same species anymore, so it has to be very different from the original. We say species, we could talk about just that group, and we could say the original population. So speciation, a new species is formed when these advantageous traits have become very different from the original population. And sometimes that could be a small change, sometimes it could be a big change. There's these weird cricket things. They have a very particular call, the crickets, when they're rubbing their legs on each other. When they do that, they're doing that to reproduce. It's their mating song. This was actually a study done. It was pretty cool. They took some crickets, they isolated them from another group of crickets. After just the one season, the crickets over here had to come up with a very different song than the crickets over here. When they remixed the populations, the crickets from over here would not interbreed with the crickets from over here. Speciation had occurred. They changed just that little bit, just the song's different. Now they're technically two different species because our definition of a species is two organisms that will interbreed in the wild and make fertile offspring. So that, boys and girls, is a good example of speciation with a little change, just microevolution. And when you look at the grand, time that the Earth has been around, you could really have some big changes happening over those long amounts of time. This is the idea that sort of bridged into what we call the origin of species, which is a really cool lecture that we'll save for later. Thanks for watching and being